So we're just going to move right ahead into the wrap up. So just reminders, a summary of what we talked about today, right? Student information data is updated on an ongoing basis. All right, we just finished end of year, but you're still submitting data for fall 1. It just rolled right into fall 1. The data for fall 1 is going to be reflective of census day. So if you're new, census day is not the day you need to be done. It's just the day that the data is reflective of. We're submitting data for students that are enrolling now. If they stay enrolled up to census day, they are included in your counts and your reports. The student enrollment file is used to determine active enrollment counts. And establish ownership for your subsequent files, right? So you must start with your enrollment of the students, then you can submit subsequent files. Also, those counts like 1.1, 1.2, 1.17, the student has to be enrolled through the student enrollment file to show up. Student subgroups are determined by program, demographic, and FRPM data, specifically direct certification. That's neither program nor demographic. Students with disability data is submitted via API directly through your special education data systems. So again, the SPED and SSRV data is not coming from your local student information system. That's going to come from CEAS, SACE, CYRUS, one of those faucet special education vendors. Certification errors and reports will not reflect ODS changes until a new revision has captured. That's very key if you're new. If you make a change and CALP has to resolve an error, you have to wait for a new revision. You can look all day long and see the data on the student's record is correct. Until a new revision has refreshed that report, the error doesn't change on the certification screen. So just understand that there's a waiting period for a new revision, and you have to look at the revised uncertified version if you're looking for changes in your reports. Early communication between the student information system, the special education data system coordinators, and then your SELPA is key when planning for fall 1, right? And so we saw, even after a whole year of reporting, we saw with end of year 4, there are sometimes nightmare problems between the local end users and CalPads and the SELPA. If you get Marshall offline, he can tell you about some horror stories he had experienced last week. And it really comes down to communication, having a plan of action and an understanding of roles and responsibilities. I don't know if it's in the Fall 1 Advanced PowerPoint, but there's a RACI matrix somewhere that helps identify, and it will help LEAs and SELPAs understand what should be expected of them. The Fall 1 certification is a 2-step approval process, which involves SELPAs. We cannot state that enough, right? It takes a marriage and cooperation. Both approvals are required for certification by the Fall 1 deadline. There's no way around that. Here's the timeline, right? And if you don't like the suggested timelines, blame Slyman, right? This is his responsibility here. So right now you should be completing the student profile data, submitting, that's the big bus right there. Submitting the population, right? You're doing all the data entry in your local systems and then submitting it in the different file types to CalPads through the SIS and the SED system. We hope that by the end of October, you're no longer doing that and you've moved on to reviewing and resolving certification errors, reports, and anomalies, so that by the middle of November, you can disseminate these reports. And this is the part that often gets missed, because when you're doing all you can to certify near the deadline, there's no one reviewing these reports. There's no one taking accountability for these reports. And then after you certify bad data, your superintendent wants to ask you questions. You're like, hey man, I did my job, right? And so this is where you need buy-in, and I can't tell you how to get it from your administrators, right? The reports can be provided. Patty Sampson, a longtime trainer at Census, used to suggest printing the reports and getting a signature on them so you get no blowback at the end. However you manage that, you want to make sure that your data stewards can see what's being reported to CalPads prior to certification. And then there's LEA approval, right? At the LEA district level, you guys approve the reports, and this is, you know, before Thanksgiving, according to Sly. And then in December, there's SELPA approval, right? And you've given your SELPA 3 weeks because you figure they're enjoying their family time. They're quarantining, eating a big turkey dinner at Thanksgiving, and then they come back and they have enough time to review the reports. What we omitted here was there's always the amendment window, but just to meet the fall 1 deadline, SELPA approval is needed by 12/18. And so going forward, so we update Bridge and YouTube with videos quite often. YouTube probably right now is getting more of our attention because it's accessible to everyone. But YouTube and the CalPads user manual are the most updated resources for CalPads, or the most frequently updated resources for CalPads. You want to be familiar with the Census website. It's a means to contact other LEAs, attend the Q&A that happens every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, submit service requests if need be, and access the bridge for training registration. And then if you're submitting a support desk ticket, we always hope that you use the web form. If you're connecting to the support desk via CalPads, this is the redirect link, so don't worry about that. If you go to help in your CalPads left navigation, it will take you here. If you use the Census website and go to support and you need help with CalPads, it will take you here. And if you go to the user manual, and I think it's under help, it will take you here. So there's multiple ways to access the service desk. There's also the email address, and it will get you in contact with us. It's just a little bit slower because it's placed in a queue and then sent to this link here. And there's also information missing about you that we get from the this web form. We do have a phone number. If you're desperate, if you're on the road driving from work to home, it's near the deadline, it works. It will put you in a queue. Your message will be transcribed electronically, and we will figure out, no matter what it says and how many jokes we crack in the background, we will call you back or send you a service desk ticket. Just remember, if you are desperate enough to call this number, be very slow in describing who you are and your name. Leave your, make sure you state your LEA, because it's electronic transcription. It jumbles up everything, so we may not know. You know, we've heard it all. You know, Kyron and Marshall know it will say some crazy stuff sometimes, and so if you just make sure you say your LEA, we can always look you up and try to piece together what's on the voicemail. And then you have the Figmat Census listserv. To get flash messages sent to your email inbox, look, if you submit data to CalPads, just sign up for the CalPads listserv. You can do that if you go to the CalPads system and documentation page. There's a link to the listserv. But the Census listserv is useful because it allows LEAs to talk with each other. And so I like to use this example. If you have Aries and SACE and you're submitting data to CalPads, you could find someone else who has the same combination of software, Aries and SACE, and you guys can work together through your problems. We can call ourselves CalPads experts, but really when you're talking about your individual data systems, you are the experts. You know more than us. And so sometimes just peer-to-peer communication is the best way to resolve your problems, or, as you often know, resolve problems, because we may not know there's issues. Your Power School, Aries, your vendor may not know there's an issue, but if they're common, and so the CalPads listserv or the Census listservs are good ones to sign up for. So last but not least, I know you sat through this long 2.5-hour discussion. Hopefully it was informative, a little bit entertaining, not as bad as some of the other webinars you have to attend. But we do really ask you to complete the survey, in particular because you're the first group. You can help us identify where we can improve, what we've done well, because we have to do this again a few more times. And we know some of the places where we can improve, but it always helps for you guys to, you know, let us know how we did and what ultimately what you were looking for, because If you sat through this 2.5-hour training and you have questions that went unanswered, let us know so we can include that in the next training. We'd appreciate it. So last but not least, we just want to say thank you for your time, your hard work, and the participation in today's training.